Okay, hi everyone, welcome back to my tutorial reflective practice session. I walked myself into a bit of a corner with the last one, and it's something that can happen when you're trying to teach yourself stuff is you get an idea of what you want to do, and then you find yourself just experimenting and noodling around and playing with things, and they're not working, you get frustrated, and that can apply to anything, whether you're learning to play music or paint or make video games, apparently, or whatever it is. Now, my strategy, which is time proven, tried and tested, is to, when I get into that situation, walk myself right back, ask some big questions, and then essentially start over. So what I have decided to do is to go find a good tutorial on YouTube and follow that, because I think that my level of technical skill as a what's happened to my camera? Interesting. Why would you do that, camera? Oh, this camera's such much crap. Right. Let's move that camera. It's problem solve on the fly. There's another camera built into this computer. HD user facing. There we go. Wow. That is a wildly different camera. Okay, so what was I saying? Oh yeah, so problem solving. So I decided to find a tutorial, which I'm going to put a link to in the description of the YouTube video so that I can refer back to it, and if you're interested in a tutorial you can do the same. And I got myself to a point where I'd covered a lot of ground but haven't necessarily learnt the things I was going through. So I learnt how to make a character walk, how to use a sprite sheet, how to animate, and to change some sort of core settings as well, and a bit more of a deep understanding about how nodes work. So what we're going to do is I'm going to try and recreate what's going on with this camera here. It's in the center of the screen, so there we go. Let's pop me there for now. We're going to try and recreate what I learned yesterday and see how much is actually stuck, and then when I get stuck I'm going to go back to the tutorial, find it, and kind of fix it that way. So it should take us maybe about half an hour to go through all of that, but I will edit the video down. So let's get Godot here, and we're going to make a new game project. I'm going to just quickly create a folder in documents. So we're not going to make this under River Mouse, we're going to make it under just like tutorial or something. So we'll call this Godot Games. That should exist. Godot Games, and then we'll call this, I've got the tutorial here, so Godot for ARPG. The tutorial is how to make Godot for ARPG tutorial. There we go. Just keep that nice and separate from my sort of River Mouse thing. I'm not going to use any version control for this, so we'll take that off. I'm going to go for compatibility, so that, well, that's just what the tutorial said. Maybe because I'm not making a complex one. I haven't really gone into detail of what these are, but I think Forward Plus supports 3D graphics, like advanced 3D graphics, like it says here, whereas compatibility is intended for low-end older devices, uses some open graphics library stuff here, which I have heard of but never successfully made work. Fastest rendering of simple scenes. So there we go. So that's something I learned yesterday. So we've got an entirely new project. And so the first thing in the tutorial that I learned was to go into the project settings, go for, is it rendering or textures, and then change the, yeah, here we go, under rendering, under textures, default texture filter, change from linear to nearest. And then nearest means that you have like better fidelity to the pixel art, stuff like that. So that's that. We're going to go for other node, and then we're going to make a player, character body 2D. We're going to attach a sprite to that, and then later we'll be putting an animation thing onto this. I understand that there are different ways to go about this. Like you can have an animated sprite 2D and the animation's like baked into the node, or you can have a kind of an add-on which is an animation thing, and that's what we're going to do because that's what the tutorial told me to do. So in the first video's description,
welcome to this new.
This lady who's doing this tutorial is great, by the way. I found her maker tech. I found her really easy to understand. So Ninja Adventure asset pack. So we've abandoned the mouse and all of that for now, and I'm just going to follow along exactly. So this Ninja Adventure asset pack is by what's the name of the person? Pixel Boy. There we go. You can follow Pixel Boy here. I'll put a link to this in the description as well. And we're going to download. Now, when I downloaded this on my other machine, I actually did donate money, but I don't want you all to see my card details, and I don't want to pay twice. So I'm just going to go ahead and download it. No thanks. Just take me to the downloads. That's installing there. We don't want any cookies, thank you very much. Let's extract. We're just going to extract this into downloads for the moment, just because I don't want to clog up the folder with all this stuff. So let's just extract it here, and then we'll pull things over as we need them. Right, while that's doing, let's go back to the Godot file. So I've got my sprite 2D. While that's all doing its thing, I want to go into project settings and I want to change the size of the window. Now this is stuff I cannot remember, because although she took you through it, it was all kind of alien stuff. So under rendering, I think it was in viewport, advanced settings. No, it was not under application, window, here we go. So viewport I think was like 250 by 135, right? But then there was a window width override. I'm going to go, even though it should be like 1080p or whatever, I'm going to go 1280 by 720 because I want the window to pop up so I can stretch it around. Save that. And there was some other setting which seemed important at the time as well, but I don't know. Here we go. So under stretch mode, canvas items will preserve the what's the word, like the aspect ratio of everything in the screen, right? If you're watching this, you probably already know this stuff, but I learnt this all yesterday, and I'm quite pleased that I remembered, to be honest. So that's the project settings set up the way that I want. Now we've got the Ninja Adventure thing all opened up here. I want to go into actor, characters, and in the tutorial I was following she uses the green ninja, blue ninja, green ninja, and we went ahead and renamed the sprite sheet, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to copy this sprite sheet and then we're going to bring it over to Godot Games project. Okay, I'm not sure why the name of the project isn't here. Maybe I've saved it in the wrong place. We'll find out in a minute when I post this over. Yeah, it's showed up. Okay, so it showed up in the directory here. Now I'm starting to lose my sense of everything. So I may have to spend some time re-watching the tutorial, but let's try and just remember. So I know that we had some stuff set up here. Create new folder, player, and then I want this under player. Oh, and then we were going to rename this as player. Capitalized there, not capitalized there. I don't know what the significance of that is. I'm sure we'll find out. And then there was a... Let's save this. Oh, that's why it's not saved. Right, okay. So res... I want that in the player thing. So there's a folder hierarchy here with the player text scene file, and then my sprite sheet is there as well. That may not be the right place for the sprite sheet, I'm not sure. Now I'm going to go ahead and rename the sprite sheet here. I want to get into the habit of doing it like within Godot instead of going into the Windows file system. I'm also looking at the wrong camera. We're on this camera, so close you. And we're going to call it... Oh, what did she call it? Oh, flip. I can't remember. I'm just going to call it that. Now, sprite, texture, animation. This is all now where my brain is starting to get very fuzzy. But I believe it was a case of adding to the player node the animation player subnode thing. And then so the first thing I got to do is I got to drag this sprite sheet. Oh, and here it is. You're seeing it for the first time. A little walkie roundy pixel ninja over to here. Cool. Then the next thing I've got to do is something to do with this offset. No. Frame coordinates. Something happened there. Let's Control Z that. No. Horizontal frames. Here we go. Right. So there's 4 horizontal frames, H frames, and then there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Is that 7 vertical frames? Whatever. We'll keep going until got what we need. It's this guy, Mr. Green Ninja. Cool. So what we've done is on the sprite sheet we've homed in to essentially our first frame, and this is like the default state of the character. So now texture. Now this is set to inherit, and I don't have to change it to linear manually because I went and did it in the project settings. So now every single asset that I bring in is going to inherit that setting from the project settings. Is that right? Where was it? Rendering, textures. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Cool beans. So now going to animation player. This triangle is because I haven't assigned like any collision stuff or anything like that. I'm going to leave that for now because that's not what we're doing. So now if I hit play scene, we should have a little guy who won't move or anything, but he's just there. Should have called him Bob, really. Now, animation player. This is stuff This animation player, animation. Right, okay. I think I have to put the movement stuff in first. So let's go watch the tutorial quickly. How to animate player movement. So I've essentially done everything that was in the first two tutorials for me from MakerTech. So we're going to watch.
Hi everyone, and welcome back to this tutorial series where I will be showing you how to make an action RPG in Godot 4.
Skip ahead.
This episode will finally be animating our player. Also, please consider liking this video and subscribing to my channel.
Okay.
Hi,
Sorry.
and welcome to
I'd done everything that was in number 1.
RPG in Godot 4.
Let's pause you and let's find. Oh, there are no chapter headings here. Okay. Let's click around until we find the code for movement. Okay. I'm trying to use prompts where I need to and not be too fussy about whether or not I've remembered or not. That's not what it's about. What it's about is pushing myself to the point where I'm just okay, I'm stuck. Then going and getting clues from the tutorials to jog my memory so that I can kind of partially get there on my own. No, didn't want that. I want Sprite 2D. Attach script. I can attach script here, but I'm not too sure where that will attach to, if it's the currently highlighted one or whatever. So now is this going to by default give me player movement? Built-in script, what's that? No, I don't want that. Okay, so we're going to put this in the editor. And then what MakerTech? No, this is not right. And I know why it's not right. Let's undo that. Can I remove script? Close, right. It's because I needed to attach it to the player. Right, attach script. Character body 2D, basic movement. Yes. All right. So we're going to do that. And then we've got this mad stuff here. Now what MakerTech told me to do is to lose everything apart from the top bit. Character body 2D. Now unfortunately I don't know the code off by heart for this. So I'm going to skip ahead on the tutorial, find the code and copy it out. And the process for copying it out will put the muscle memory in my hands. So yeah, let's find exactly where it's done in full. Top quality content here. I think this is everything we need. So the way she's doing it, which is different to what I had been doing on my previous videos, is just using the user interface left, right, up and down defaults and then applying extra keys to those. So just for the sake of being consistent with the tutorial, I'm going to do the same thing. But this is with an acknowledgement that you can do it in a variety of different ways. I need to get some water. I'll be right back. And I'm back. Okay, so let's go ahead and copy this text out. So I did look at the documentation about what @export and what @onReady mean, and I think if you're watching this and if you could explain it to me in the comments, that would be great. just sometimes the documentation just doesn't make sense, and I don't know if that's me. So, or if that's just, the documentation is made for people who are a bit more technical. So @export, variable speed colon, it's an integer, and she's got it set at 35. That's too slow for me. I'm setting it at 70. New line. So we've got a function, a built-in function called handle input. And what that does is it takes in, what's it called? Arguments all about moving. So we've got a variable called move direction, which is based on input dot get underscore vector. Sometimes it's camel case and sometimes it's got underscores. I don't really know why that is. And then we're going to put in here UI underscore right. It says left there, but she goes on to change it later. So it's one of the benefits of having already watched the tutorial. UI left, UI up, and UI down. Cool. What I like about the built-in editor with Godot is it will, if you've got like VS Code or whatever, if you've got errors, it will let you know pretty much instantaneously. And then velocity equals move direction. I feel like that should have more. Yeah, move direction there. I missed out the capital D. Right, so we've got a built-in function now. Apparently, whenever you're using physics in Godot, you have to use this physics process. I read some of the documentation on it, and it's very clear about that. So that's a built-in function, and then that'll be calling handle input, so the results of handle input. I can't type. And it'll also be calling, is it move and slide? Yeah, move and slide, which is a built-in function which governs what happens when you come into contact with like a collision map. And apparently you just chuck that in unless you want to get stuck when you touch something. You just put that in there and it just does a bunch of stuff for you that you used to have to type out yourself. So we're going to save that there. I'm just going to watch a bit more of this tutorial.
The last thing we then need to do is multiply the move
direction. I knew there was more to this.
Speed when we assign it to the velocity.
Okay.
When we test again, we can now
pause that. Yeah, I knew there was something. I don't like the way that she bunches everything up there, so I'm going to create a little gap. So yeah, our speed variable is then, so what's really happening here, is so that I can understand it, is we've got the input. So this function is to handle input. In this case it will be the up, down, left and right cursor arrows, and it creates a variable which is move direction, and that equals the input dot get a vector. So when you press the button, it will get a vector based on the direction you're expected to be going or have gone, based on these four. And then another variable, velocity, which doesn't seem to need to be declared with the word variable, so maybe it's not a variable, maybe it's something, maybe it's like a built-in argument. I don't really know. Again, if you're watching this and you understand that, please feel free to let me know. And that equals the move direction, which is this thing, times the speed, which is this number. And then the physics process, which is a built-in function, takes the results of that X amount of times per second, and it is 60. I think we're running 60 frames per second, so it's doing it 60 times a second. That's what delta is. It's tied to the frame rate. And then we've got the move and slide function to make sure we move and slide when we bump into stuff. Okay, so that is attached to the player node. We're gonna run the scene, and we should be able to move it. Ha ha! You can't see, but I've done left and right wrong. The wrong way around. I was trying to get clever, and it's not worked. So maybe she doesn't change that later. Maybe I'm referencing a different tutorial that I watched some other time. Alright, let's try that now. Run scene. There we go. So right, left, up, down. Fabulous. Alright, well I'm really pleased. So it's kind of got me to where I was with the mouse before, but just with a lot more understanding of how to do it. But what I was trying to get to, what led me down this path, was trying to get the mouse to change direction. And the way that I was doing it was experimenting with code and stuff, and that wasn't really the right way for me. So the right way for me was to learn how. So we're going to go into, I think, the animation player, or is it the Sprite 2D? Now this is really, I think, where I should have stopped yesterday and just been like, oh, I've achieved so much. But I didn't. I carried on, and now I'm in a position where I can't quite remember exactly how to achieve the next thing. So let's wing it. Press animation, new. Walk left. I'm making that camel case for a reason, which will become clear later. And then we want to have the animation frame change every 0.2 seconds. We want to change this thing to 0.8 seconds, which is like how often the loop happens, and then this button here signals animation looping. Now on this sprite sheet, which I'll just open up so that I can see it, you can see it, we can all see it. Characters. Green Ninja, where are you? Green Ninja. Sprite sheet. Let's just open that up in a text thing. Ugh. So it's got the down animation this way. It's got the up animation where you're looking at the back of his head. It's got her head, maybe their head. It's got the walk left and the walk right, and then some other sort of, I guess, like combat stuff here. This looks like he's died. So we're going to try and find for walk left this set of animations here. So I know from looking at this sheet, I know that this is the third one along. I could maybe have inspected that just by clicking there as well. So animation 0.2. This is good. I don't know what I'm doing. Frame coordinates. Is it this key? We press this key. Create new track for property frame coordinates and insert key. So I'm guessing key is to do with keyframes, which is something I learnt about when I was learning After Effects for university. Keyframes are like points along a timeline where things change. Create a reset track. I don't know what a reset track is, but there we go. Now, what we want to be doing is bringing the starter frame here, but we don't want it to be this thing or that thing. So this animation key track edit is going to take us to the one that we want. So the x-axis is the horizontal axis. Godot seems to be a bit inconsistent, where sometimes they call it H and V, horizontal, vertical, and sometimes they call it X and Y. And sometimes Y seems to go from 0 up, and sometimes Y seems to go from the top value down. Very odd. Anyway, so we're walking left, so we want him pointing left, and then 0 is the top axis. So that's going 0, 1, 2, 3 down. Yeah, which doesn't quite make sense, but that's fine. I want this at 0.2. I don't know why that changed. Okay, we'll drag that to there. And I guess we hit enter. So let's change this to 0.4. I don't know if you do this manually or if you... Not sure. Anyway, Godot script seems to have a lot in common with Python. Although it does say very clearly that it's not affiliated with Python in any way on the documentation. But I want the next frame along. So 0 is the first one. 1 is the second one. No, it's changed my current frame. So I want... How do I move it along? So 0.2 is this one. So that's correct. That's done. That's set. That's an achievement. But then how do I create the next one? Animation track key edit. Sprite 2D. Frame coordinates. Do I press key? Nope. Man, I am in the weeds. I am in the weeds here. Right, so I know that I want that there. How do I do the next one? Frame 0. Okay, so frame 0, key. Create new track frame and insert key. This doesn't feel right. This is not the thing. Okay. Frame 1. 0.2. And then the frame coordinates I want 1, 2. Key. Nope. Key. The heck? No, okay. A lot of strange things have happened, and I think we've reached the point at which we need to go into the tutorial. Yeah. Sprite 2D. All right. Let's go watch how to animate player movement.
Hi everyone, and welcome
I'll
back
cut this
to
out of the final
tutorial
video.
series where I will be showing you how to make an action RPG in Godot 4. In this episode, we'll finally be animating our player. Okay, so we will be using an animation player to animate our player. The animation player can be used for a lot of different types of animations, but we'll talk more about this in other episodes. For now, we just want to animate our player's movements. And now, let's add an animation player node to our player scene. To create our first animation, we click the animation button and then new. Let's make the walk down animation first. We then start by changing the snap to 0.
Okay, I'm going to follow along with her completely. So we're going to change. We'll leave walk left there because I don't actually know how to remove it. Oh yeah, hang on, walk left, edit, rename, delete. Alright, I don't know how to delete an animation I put in there, but fine. Let's just make a new one and call it walk down. I'm going to follow along with her exactly now.
This will be the default time between frames unless you change it later on. Now it is time to create the frames for our animation. Select the sprite node 2D and take a look at the inspector menu to the right. All these keys shows us what properties we can use for our frame. But for now we just want to use the frames from our sprite sheet. So we go down to animation and then frame coordinates. And we make sure that both X and Y is set to 0. And now
What did she do? What did she press?
To use the frames from our sprite sheet. So we go down to animation and then frame coordinates.
Okay. Let's copy that. So this is 0, 0, 0.
And we make sure that both X and Y is set to 0. And now our sprite should be showing the first frame in the walk down animation. To add this frame using the frame coordinates, we then click the key next to the coordinates and create a new track for them.
Cool, so I'd had that much right. So let's do that. Create. That's moved along for some reason. All right, and we've got the first frame that we want. Now, maybe it's because I clicked that I was. I think I was editing this individual frame. That's where I'd gone wrong, and I needed to be in the Sprite 2D section.
We then change the frame coordinates again to get the next sprite frame. X should be 0 and Y should be 1.
Okay.
And then we click the key again to add this as the next frame in our
Okay. It's starting to come back to me now. Mine's not behaving the way hers is. Why is that? Create.
animation. We then continue this process until we've added all 4 walk down frames to our
Confused. Right. Okay. Let's keep control Zing out. Ooh. So I want my first frame to be It worked yesterday. Cool. Now something's wrong with the frequency of how I want that to. Here we go. Snap. Okay. Aha! I found it. Right. Snap 0.2. Right. Cool. I'm glad I revisited this process because those kinds of discoveries are very important. So I want this to be at 0.6 now. Right. That one. Key. Down. That one. Key. And then let's play it. And it's walking. Alright. And you can see it playing through the different frames there as well. And that's the frame. This is the frame from the pixel sheet, and this is the frame of the animation. Them both being called frame is a little bit confusing. Cool stuff. Alright. So now I'm going to try and do walk up, walk down, as walk up, walk left, walk right myself. So let's do walk left. Let's go back to 0.2. Let's create new track. Oh, okay. So I've already done that. I want my snap to be 0.2. And I want my first frame here to be 2, that to be 0. Add it in. Go back to 2 there. I want that to be 1. Add it in. Here we go. That to be 2 there. That to be 1. That to be 2. Add it in. And then the final one, that's v3, add it in. Cool, and then if I play that, there he is, walking left. Now we'll do walk right. For some reason just completely blanked out on what is my left, what is my right. Cool. Right, let's create there. Now why does the snap to not fit like default settings? I don't know why that is. Snap. Strange. Okay, so we want this to be 0.4. And then the next one, 2, 3. Next one. Wait a minute. That didn't work. Cool. And then the next one, be 3 and 3. And then that should work. I got it not set to loop. Okay. Why is this resetting every time? 0.8 loop. Awesome. Now we want to walk up. So new animation. Walk up. My poor brain. My brain is hurting. Let's do all these settings now. I feel like there's a way to parent these so that they're always the same, but I must have done something wrong. 0.8 of a second, and then loop, and then we want to find walk up, which I think is this one. Cool. Excellent. And that's all set right. And then play. And there we go. He's walking up. That would be a good point at which to save it. Now, as you'll see, when I hit run scene, he can move around, but none of the animations are happening. Now, why is that? The reason for that is because it's not anywhere in the code at all. So we will have to sort that out. Have I got two scripts here? Okay, I need to remove that one. How do I remove this? Close. Oh, never mind. I'm getting distracted. Okay. So now, what I definitely cannot remember the code for making this work. So we're going to go back to the tutorial again. Here we go. Updating the animation.
For the 4 walk
So let's watch a bit of this.
So now it's time to update what animation should be playing based on the player's velocity. We can do this by adding new code to our player script. First, we add a reference to the player's animation player. In the description for this video.
Okay, so first I'm going to add that section of code in. I don't fully understand what onReady does, despite having read what onReady does. onReady var animations, but this is all referencing stuff that's built in. Dollar, I know dollar means literal, but then I literally don't know what that's doing. I think that's all good.
I have left a link to the GD script reference in the Godot documentation. Here you can read about the onReady annotation and the $sign literal if you like. Next, we then create a new function to update the animation.
So that light blue cyan colour suggests to me this is sort of built into Godot. Probably says that somewhere on something I've read, but what have I done wrong there? Yeah, update animation. It's not auto-completing for some reason. Oh.
Start by creating a string to store the player's direction in, and I set it to down.
Okay, so actually update animation is a function we're creating. Okay, so variable direction equals down. If velocity dot x,
then the player is moving left.
Okay, so if velocity on the x-axis is less than 0, direction equals
and if it
left. This is a little like I very vaguely understand what I'm doing here, but
x direction is positive,
I'm not comfortable in my knowledge.
Right.
Okay, and then this is the opposite. So else if velocity on the x-axis is greater than 0, direction equals right. Well, these have to be capitalized. The reason they have to be capitalized is because they're going to connect to the walk up, walk down things that I made in the editor.
If the velocity is 0 in the x direction and negative in the y direction, then the player is moving up.
Okay. Else if velocity dot y, was it say less than? Yeah. Is less than 0, direction direction equals up, and that has to be capitalized as well. Oh, could go for a coffee right now.
If neither of these if checks are true, then our direction variable is unchanged and therefore still set to down. To start the correct animation, we then call the play function on the animation player. This function takes a string input specifying the name of the animation that should be played.
So if it's not clear from the tutorial, I will explain for mine and your benefit. So this is a built-in function, built-in part of the animation player, animations.play, right? And then what we're doing is we're referencing walk, which is the first half of what I created in Godot. Where's Godot here? Oh, I'll just skip away from it. In the animation thingy. Let's just save that a minute. I will show you, I will demonstrate. So it says walk in lowercase and then up in uppercase, and what's happening here is it's concatenating. Oops. Plus, it's concatenating the lowercase word walk with the uppercase word up, and then once those are joined together, they kind of make one word, like walk up, walk right, walk left, and then that's referencing the animation here. So it's kind of using that to talk to this animation thing.
Finally, we call our new function from the physics process function. Now we run.
Okay, so this function that we've created, update animation, we created it, that's why it wasn't auto-completing, should now auto-complete because it exists. There we go. And then when the physics process executes every frame, it will do all three of these things: handle input, move and slide, update animation. So that's helped me to understand what's going on. Why is this wrong? Walk plus direction. What have I? Animation stop play, walk plus direction. Something's wrong here. Let's type direction out wrong. No. Animations plural. Here we go. Boink. There we go. So if I had called this variable animation and then this variable animation, would that have worked? Oh yeah, it would have. For consistency, we're going to stick with the tutorial and just do what she does, just so if we have problems down the line that we need to go back and fix, it'll be that much easier. So let's ditch the tutorial for now. Let's save again, and let's play my scene. And now what should be happening, so he's always walking, and I think when I press left, it will animate. Oh, why is that happening? It's like giving me a frame that's wrong. Okay, I think I know why this is. Alright, hang on. Let me move all of these over. Walk left. 0.8 seconds, loop, yep. Let's bundle these over here. That's funny. Walk right. This is all correct. Yep. Oh, sugar. Let's move this over here, over here, over here, over here. And then what's the other one? Walk down. Make sure 0.8, yep. Yep. Right, let's move these over. Save. Run scene. Now let's see. Okay, now he's instantly doing it because it's doing it on the 0 part of the frame. But when I let go of the direction, he snaps back to facing down and he's still running. The reason for that is we've not put in any sort of else condition in. It's just like the default direction is down. If I were to change this to left, experiment here, and then rerun, the default position is now left. And it stays left when I move down because I haven't specified anything for the down movement. So if I were to just, for example, just muck about here, elif velocity, dot y is greater than 0, colon, direction is equal to down, that would then override that down movement. I should get the down animation. Yeah. But then he's snapping back to looking left the whole time and still running. She's about to talk us through how to sort that out. And I don't know how to do that. So let's watch that tutorial. Find out.
We call our new function from the physics process function. Now we run our game again, and we can see that the animation is changing when the direction the player is moving in is changing. But when the player stops moving, there is still an animation playing. To fix this, we add a new if statement to the top of the update animation function we just created. If the length of the velocity vector is 0, then the player has stopped moving, and we stop the animation player.
Okay, so that's something that's probably again in the documentation, and I feel like this is something I'm just not likely to remember. I'll probably just have to repeat it quite a few times. So I may actually, like off camera, just practice this, just learn it by rote, by writing it out over and over again. Oh, whoops. Is equal to 0. I like how if statements work in Godot script. It's just reliant on the indentations. Animations dot stop. There we go. I'll take that little gap there.
It's then put into the scope of an else statement. It's really important that every line is indented correctly.
Cool. So what we've done there is this if statement has then made the rest of this part of itself. So if I highlight, can I tab? Yeah, tab that across, and then I can else, then that all exists. That's nested. Have I done that wrong? Yes, I've done that wrong. Boink, that wants to be there. And then that wants to be there as well. Yeah. So the nesting is really important with Godot script from the looks of it. Whereas I learnt code using C, where if you wanted to, you could put the whole program on one line because it uses semicolons to mash everything up. This is better. It's just what you're used to, I suppose, isn't it? Okay, let's try that now. See what happens. So now what we're looking at, if we just quickly look at the code, let's make the window smaller. Whee! If we just look at the code, okay. So update animation. If velocity.length is equal to 0, so the velocity is nothing. That means it's not moving. The animation stops, and it stops on whatever frame you let it go on. Else, so if you are moving, essentially, you have a variable called direction, which is down, which is a default here. I wonder if I take this out. Oh no, could I just declare it without assigning it? Let's see if that works. Oh, whoops. Let's just play the scene. Yeah. So actually, the equals down is no longer needed because we don't have a default, because I changed the code and I compensated for it by actually putting a down instruction in. So rather than relying on it being a default, personally, just from writing code, I prefer, I don't think it's as efficient or whatever, but I prefer to have an instruction attached to everything rather than a default that then isn't being called to fix something. It's like a double negative. And in my head, when I'm trying to then analyze the code and find out what's wrong, I find it really difficult to make that jump from, oh, this is nothing's happening because it's set to default, especially if you've got lots of code. To make the connection between what's at the top and the bottom sometimes is a bit weird. That might just be me though, so I suppose if you're doing it, you just do it how you like. Cool. So he's moving around, and that's basically it. That's where I'd gotten to, and then I reached the end of the tutorial, and she just talks about what she's doing next. So yeah, so let's just do a bit of an overview of what I learned. So I learned to create a player node, I learned to add a sprite to it, I learned the animation player thing and how that works, I learned how to assign a sprite sheet to the Sprite 2D thing, I learned how to attach code. I won't say that I learned how to write this code. I think I would have to practice it a lot and maybe do some of the reading to try and understand it, try and commit it to memory. But I certainly at least was able to follow along, and I, for the most part, understand what I'm looking at, which is really good. I got my head around, again, how to set an animation track, how to define the time, in this case it's 0.8 seconds, how to loop it, how to create this snap thing so that each frame is in a certain section of the second as it loops around. I understand the relationship between the update loop of the code and the animation frames. What else did I learn? That's kind of it. The animation player and how it has code that attaches to it that allows you to then use functions like animations.stop. And I learned about UI left, UI right, UI up, UI down. And we will go ahead and be adding more stuff to this later on. So there we go. If you're watching this on Twitch and you followed through with this, thank you so much. If you're catching up with it on YouTube, watching like the edited one where I've cut out some of the tutorial video watching, that's cool too. The link is going to be in the description. I should have put on the label of this video that this is not a tutorial. This is just for me to reflect on my own practice. But if you are watching, I hope you're maybe learning or maybe inclined to help me learn by by telling me what I'm doing wrong or giving me little tips. That'd be great. And yeah, I'm not even going to ask you to leave a like or a subscribe or anything because it just doesn't feel like that kind of content. But thanks so much for watching, and maybe I will catch you on the next one. Take care. Bye.